Welcome. Hopefully this camera is now the right way up. I've now got my shop camera on the show, and hopefully that all works. I know that Mohammed and Vivek were here, and I wonder if you guys could tell me if it's all in order and that we have a good picture now and that everything is up and running. So if you could notify me, because I think you'll find this a very interesting show. We need to get a lot of stuff out there, which we need to chat about. And certainly this industry needs help as far as everything's concerned. Let me put up a thing now. I'm going to just say something here and see if we get you guys up. How is this? And hopefully we got sound and everything. Okay. And as long as I got sound, is that all okay? As long as we got sound? That's great. Vivek, nice to have you with us. And the usual suspects have joined us. Should be fun. And why am I doing this? Well, I don't know why I'm doing this, but what I do know is that I know a lot more about this industry than most people. And the industry is not keen to use me, maybe because they feel insecure. So I'm going to carry on doing my YouTube show, and I'm going to carry on tipping to the guys out there that want the previews of races. I don't really tip, I actually preview the races and try and help people to have a winning day. And certainly today, I would have thought that everyone who listened to my show had a good winning day. So please subscribe to this show, and please share it with everyone that you know. And that's great. So let's kick off with a wish list for 2021. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it down into categories. And then each category, during the weeks following, I'm going to have a guest on air to chat about that category. I'm going to give you my thoughts, but I think we should get experts to be able to chat to me about this. And by then, we should be able to use Zoom for meetings so we can discuss it with various people and get these things out in the open. So let's start off with the number one most important part of this industry, and that is to be able to export horses. I believe this is vitally important for a number of reasons. One, the breeding industry needs to be sustainable. And the only way this breeding industry in South Africa, where we do breed some fantastic race horses, and we breed a lot of very good, strong, sound horses, is that they're going to get decent money for their horses at the sales. And the only way they're going to get decent money for their horses at the sales is for there to be international exposure. Now, there are many arguments that say maybe this is not that important and it won't really help us and it's not very good for us because we're going to lose a lot of horses. At the end of the day, for the breeding industry to survive, it needs income, and it needs income from overseas. The South African rand is not big enough to make the breeding industry really work. So the exports are vital. And the second part about it being vital is that we're going to showcase all our product. Now, to showcase our product in South Africa is one thing. People watch it all over the world on Teletrack, and that helps. But to showcase our product internationally, we need to be able to export in numbers. Australia have a wonderful export program, as do New Zealand, and their breeding industry has thrived and prospered. Our breeding industry has got to go the same way. That the only way it can thrive and prosper is for international money to come into this country and buy our horses. Whether they buy the best or the middle of the road or the bottom of the road doesn't matter. But if we can start selling to the east, lots of middle of the road horses for them to be able to race, and they will be certainly pleasantly surprised when they see how hardy, how tough, and how good our race horses are. We would then sustain the industry. So the breeding is vital, and the only way we can really see the breeding prosper is export. So number one on my agenda would be make sure that we get the export sorted out, whether we use the DTI, whether we use the Department of Agriculture, whether we use the European Union, whoever we use, and however we've done it, we have not been very successful so far it needs to be priority, and it's got to be done. So that's how we keep the farms moving and rotating and getting good bloodstock and breeding good bloodstock and keeping mares and keeping our product in the breeding shed and being able to buy better stallions, better prospects for our breeding worldwide, is to be able to export them. That's, in a nutshell, the most important thing that the breeding industry needs, is to be able to export horses. South Africa on its own can never sustain the breeding market. And if you look at the national yearling sales and Cape Thoroughbred sales, the huge buyers are certainly from overseas. Arvin Maharaj, my old friend from Equine Hub, has joined us. Now, Arvin and I worked extremely well with Equine Hub, and it was just a pity that things came along as they did, because we think that this would have been a win. Nice to have you on the show, Arvin, with us. Number two, and Arvin will know all about this, the open bet. And there's no way that this industry can go forward into the 2021 with the open bet being the way it is at the moment. What happens at the moment, for those of you that don't know, and a lot of people don't really understand the open bet, is that the big betting operators, except for Interbet, and I'm talking about all the others, if you have a bet with them and an account with them and have a tote bet, whether it be a pick six, jackpot, place accumulated, trifecta, swinger, places, wins, whatever bet you have with them, they hold the bet. That bet does not go through the totalizator. That does not go through TAB South Africa. So what in effect happens is there's no tax paid on that money that's bet. Now, why the TAB is unique is that every rand that goes into the TAB on exotics, and I'm talking exotics, jackpots, place accumulators, pick sixes and that, 25% is immediately taken off that rand. So it's a huge takeout. And this has got to be looked at as well. So we'll look at the takeout later. But the huge takeout comes about through the tote only. It does not come about through all the big betting operators, licensed bookmakers who are licensed in South Africa. They take the bet, they hold it, because the percentages have got to suit them. And on top of that, most punters don't win. So they're quite happy to pay out if a punter does win. But when he doesn't win, the money goes straight into their coffers. And as a result, the betting firms in this country have become extremely rich. This doesn't happen anywhere else in the world. It only happens here. It's unique to South Africa. The betting firms hold all the tote bets, and those bets then go straight into their pockets. The losings go into their pockets. They pay out the winnings. They pay 6% tax on the winnings, the same as a normal win bet. This is what I was told. I only ascertained this last week. But as a result, the tote, which is the lifeblood of South African racing, does not get this income and does not get it going through the machines. What I would suggest, and I know how to sort it out, but no one wants to actually listen. What I would suggest is that every single big bookmaker only runs tote terminals, same as Interbet does. Interbet puts all the money through tote terminals. Whatever you bet with Interbet goes through a tote terminal and is subject to tax. They get their commission and they work as a commission agent. And I think the bookmakers should be extremely happy to be able to work on this basis. The normal commission was about 4%. It was dependent on who you were and where you were. But they're talking about maybe making it 8%. Whatever it is, the tote has got to get all the money that's bet on tote bets. It's all got to go through the tote, because that will, as Interbet says, sustain the game. Why will it sustain the game? Because the percentages will come off, the government tax will be paid, and then the rest of the money, which is the slice that the operators take, will go into the pockets of the operators to pay for training centers, to pay for transport of horses to the races, to pay for jockeys' fees. This is something I'll get onto later, because fees is something I'm going to talk about, to pay for stakes, and to pay for all the other multitude of events that run South African racing, maintenance of racetracks. All these things come out of whatever the tote generates. There are other revenue streams as well, but the tote is the main revenue generator. So that is vitally important that this gets sorted out. The right way to do it is do it with a quid pro quo with the bookmakers, chat to them on a basis that we've got to sort this out now. The new operators coming in, Mary Oppenheimer Daughters, that should be their priority. If they can't get it done, I'm prepared to help them because I have the ideas. Right, so we move on to point 3. And point 3 is information. It is vital the punter gets the information. The punter is the lifeblood of the industry. If he's putting his money into this business, he must get information. He needs information about every single horse that has a question mark next to it. They do it in other countries. It's easy to do here. It just takes time, effort, and experts. Time, effort, and experts. TEE. So you've got to have people employed to go and do the TEE for you. The time is that it takes to assimilate the information. The effort it takes is getting to the people and making sure that there is no such thing as a no comment given in any publication about a horse's well-being. There's got to be a comment. And then the experts are the only people that those professionals in the business that we need to get the information from will talk to. They will not talk to hacks. They will not talk to people who have got no credibility in this business. And unfortunately, the majority of people working in positions where you need to get this information are basically hacks. They are beginners. They don't know the people well enough. They don't know how to get the information out of them. And if they do get the information out of them, I'm not sure they disseminate it correctly. So it's very important that the people that are put in the position of getting this information are experts. And I'll give you an example, a guy like David Mollett, Andrew Bond. I don't want to single out, but these are people that have been long-standing people in the industry. They have credibility and they're able to get information out of people, out of trainers, out of jockeys. You see their shows. Neil Andrews, Clocking the Gallop, and Nico. These guys have been around forever. They have credibility. And trainers and jockeys will talk to them because they know that whatever they're going to say to them is going to be relayed back to the punter on the correct channel, on the correct level, on the correct information service. It means that that information is going to help the punter and give him consumer confidence. Without consumer confidence, this industry is dead. Charles Fall is the most important man in this industry as far as consumer confidence is concerned. He's been beating the drum for 30 years that we have got to get up to speed with the way first world countries disseminate their information on racing. That is vitally important. So information comes to TEE. You've got to be able to get the transparent, expert information from these guys. Number 4, I'm going on to rules, okay? And the rules are very important. And this is where the NHA comes in. And unfortunately, I've been on the wrong side of the rules on a number of high-profile occasions. I've been vindicated, but it doesn't help. The rules have got to be fair and transparent for everyone. Everyone has got to get the same crack. If you do something wrong, you must get punished. If you do something right, you must get patted on the back. But as far as the running of racing is concerned, the whole system has got to change. The NHRA is tasked with making sure that information is run above board, correctly, and fairly. So there's 3 things that need to be looked at. The first thing is everything above board? Is everything with the laboratory above board? Because I'm not sure that it is. There were multiple caffeine cases. There were multiple cases of other transgressions of non-prescribed remedies and multiple number of these things, and nothing has been done about them. They've been swept under the carpet. If you're going to be transparent, you've got to actually make a case and open a case and close a case for everything that is wrong. or supposedly wrong. If the transgressor is found to be in the clear and in the open and has not transgressed the rules, then he should be notified, and so should the industry be notified. But you can't have this cloud hanging over the NHA's head where they're not seen to be transparent. So once you've got transparency, and the laboratory is a typical place because I've had many run-ins with the laboratory and I know exactly what the problems are there. Then you've got to look at their rules as far as racing is concerned. If rules are broken, whether it be by licensees or employees, they have got to be punished. Whether you're employed by the NHA or you're licensed by the NHA, you should all be punished on the same level. You cannot punish some people and not punish other people. The NHA is great at this. They don't punish people who are employed by them correctly or at all. So that's got to be looked at. And you then move on to the most important part of racing is to see that it is run correctly and above board, and that there is consistency in all the rulings that they make. Objection rules, there's no consistency. There's only one way you're going to sort that out. You're going to have to employ a board of stewards, as they were called. You can call them whatever you like now. You can call them referees. You can call them anything, that sits in a virtual boardroom and watches each race, and those people will come to the right conclusion. The objections should all go through a board, a central board. None of this boardroom at Greyville where jockeys have got to object. I read some very interesting stuff from the International Racing Club. Why should a jockey object? He's riding for another trainer in the next race and he might be objecting against him. That's not his job. He can't be seen to do that. This is not the old days where we had to do these things. I remember walking into boardrooms and thinking to myself, I've got to object, but I don't really want to object. There are people in here that I'm not going to get any play from. There's nothing's going to happen. I remember a classic example. Let me tell you a story. In the early 80s, maybe the late 70s, I was a young trainer and I just started training. And it was the last leg of the jackpot. And I had a filly running that I thought would win. Anyway, she didn't win. She got beaten. She ran second. But she got bumped inside the last 400 meters 3 or 4 times. And I was fuming because in my young days, I could get on my high horse. And I stormed into the jockey room to go upstairs at Newmarket. And a jockey was standing there at the door. And he said, "What's going on?" I said, "I'm objecting." He said, "Are you objecting against the weight?" So I said, "No, I got bumped a couple of times in the race." Anyway, what happened is I went up into the boardroom and I laid an objection. The funny thing was that the horse that beat me was a horse that backed to hot favorite, ridden by, I'm not sure if it was Martin Skuman, but it was one of those stables. And what happened in the boardroom was I objected against the horse and I lost the objection. The grandfather or the father of the trainer was sitting in the boardroom as one of the stewards. He was a steward in those days, and I lost the objection. I never had a chance. But what subsequently came out of this, and this is what's interesting, and this is how this business used to be run, is that horse never carried the right weight. What happened, in effect, was that the jockey weighed out with a very light saddle and a big weight cloth, and they didn't put the weight cloth on the horse for it to run in, and they kept it under one of the assistants or someone kept it under their jacket, okay? And when the jockey came back and had beaten me, they dropped the weight, and he dropped the saddle on the floor, the weight cloth was dropped on the floor, put it all together, went in and weighed in, and he was the correct weight. And that's why the jockey asked me at the door, "Am I objecting against the weight?" When I found out about it, which was many years later, you can imagine how aggravated I was, because it wasn't a matter of me getting bumped or me having any chance of winning an ejection. The horse carried about 4 or 5 kilos less than it should have carried and wouldn't have beaten me anyway. So that's how things used to be run. These things have got to be changed. And I think that we're still living in those type of ages. There's a lot of things going on. I saw a race today in Borrowdale where I mean, this guy cannot survive without getting a long suspension. What he did was wrong. He bumped the favorite on the fence, never saw a head on, but from the side on you could see, and then never rode his horse out the last 100 meters and actually probably cost himself the race. So rules are vitally important. And in order for this business to thrive, the rules have got to be above board, fair, and made sure that they are enforced to the penalty and to the max. TV. Let's go on to the TV. That's number 5. The picture quality has got to be outstanding. The picture quality is disgraceful. There's always bad picture quality, mainly in the Cape, but all over the place you're getting these blurred screens, and it's something to do with the pixels or whatever. And I mean, it's really not good at all. The professionalism of presenters. There are some presenters who are absolutely outstanding at this job. They really are good. They seek information. They try to do things for everyone. They really work very hard at getting this job right for them, for the punter, because they are information givers. They are your mouthpiece out to the general public. You have got to be accurate. You've got to know what you're talking about, and you've got to take all ties out of it. You cannot be buddy-buddy with this one and not buddy-buddy with that one. And I know, I presented for 20 years. And I can tell you, I interviewed people after the races that I couldn't stand the sight of. I knew they were doing things wrong. I knew they were cheating. I knew there were things wrong. I knew that they shouldn't be entitled to the interview I was giving them. But I treated them fairly, and I treated them exactly the same as I treated the people that I really liked. No one would know there were people that I liked or disliked. In any interview I ever did, no one would know. Only maybe Stryker would think that I picked on him the once when Andrew Fortune jumped all over him. So it was a very interesting interview. It will be there somewhere in Teletrack where Andrew Fortune really got involved and took the mickey out of Stryker. But it was great. It was great television. That's what television's all about. The public love it. They love those type of things. So, but you've got to be a professional. You've got to know what your subject. You've got to know who you're talking to, what you're talking about. Every single thing that is important to this industry goes through that television set. And talking about that, the worst thing that I've ever seen is that our television sets advertise our biggest antagonists, nemesis. They advertise them consistently on the television set. It's not right. You can't have the people that are taking the bread out of your mouth being portrayed as the wonderful people that are portrayed on this industry. You can't do it. You've got to actually make sure that advertisers are good for the game, good for the industry, helping the business. And I've just got Vivek there, says it's inconsistent and frustrating, and punters like UK racing would love the most coverage we can get. And he's right. We would love the most coverage we could get. We should be covering races completely. And that leads me on to the next point, which is the time between races. There does not need to be 35 minutes between races. We are now 2021. I would never have a race meeting run with more than 25 minutes between races. And if it's a big race, maybe 30 minutes because you want to give it more coverage, or even 35. Sometimes they're 40, 50 minutes between big races. It's crazy. People haven't got time. They haven't got the inclination to sit there and watch this all day, hoping that some gem will come out of someone's mouth that's going to help them. They actually watch something else. I sit and watch a racing, I watch a football in between, or I watch the rugby, or watch a cricket, or watch something else. Or I study what's going on. I've done all my work on the race card. Picture quality was ludicrous, especially the angles cover. Well, that was my next point, was that the production and direction of the picture is vitally important. And you cannot have producers and directors who are putting the picture on the screen that do not know what they're doing. They've got to know about horse racing. They've got to know which angles are the best angles to use. They've got to know that the man who's watching it needs to be able to watch all the information that's going on there. So this is where the producers and directors come in. When I was presenting, I was on very, very good terms with my producer and director. I used to chat to them nonstop about how to get the best angles, how to get the best stuff, how to get the best shots, how to use the picture to the best advantage for the people that are sitting out there watching it. Vivek said they don't show head-ons and photo finishes. We need to see the photo on the line. Well, they do if they need to. It should be standard practice. That's what should happen. There should be a chain of events that is standard practice. And to do that, you've got to know something about racing. So the producers are very, very lax, and they've got into a rut where all they do is they just carry on and carry on and carry on, doing what they've always done. They don't look at the product. They need fresh faces, fresh ideas, fresh people to do it. I worked with Andrea and Roddy Barker at Teletrack. They were unbelievable as a production team. They were fantastic. And they were so accommodating as far as trying to get things done that we needed to do to make sure we got the best show there that we could get. And you've got to have a laugh. You've got to enjoy it. It's got to be fun. You can't have this thing. There were always the suits who ran racing always saying, it's not a joke. It's not this or it's not that. Don't make jokes. Don't laugh. I watch a football. I watch the way they chat. I watch a golfers. I mean, golf is probably the most boring game you can watch. Do you see how good the producers are? They've always got stuff that's packaged, waiting to be able to put into blank spots. That's what should happen with racing. There should be packages of all types of things that are interesting put into blank spots instead of seeing horses trotting to the start with one jockey chatting to the other, feet out the arms, bouncing on the horse's back, and some monotonous music going on in the background. Have a package, have something that you can clip in, have something that you can put there. That's production. That's what happens. That's what needs to happen. Okay, let's move on to the next problem is fees. And the fees have got to change. The fee structure's got to change. And I'm going to talk about two sets of fees that have got to change. The NHRA fees have got to change. You cannot charge the fees that you charge as the NHRA to register colors, to register ownerships, to register horses, to register breeding stock, to register all these type of things. These fees are ridiculous. So that needs a whole shakeup. And maybe Susan Kalmanson, as an open-thinking and knowledgeable person, will look at how fees are structured throughout the world and bring us into line. I think it's very, very important. The second point is that I believe that this really needs to happen, and that is that jockeys' fees should not be paid out of the stakes pot. I don't believe jockeys' fees should be paid out of the stakes pot. I believe jockeys' fees should be paid by the owner at scale or in a monthly debit, and that's what should happen. And there's many, many things that we should look at as far as jockeys' fees are concerned. And there might need to be a complete restructuring. The jockey's going to hate this because they're on the pig's back. They get their 900 Rand or whatever every single race meeting. Doesn't matter. We've all taken a pay cut. I'm doing no business. No one else is doing any business. Any feedback about the jockeys' case with the NHR taken to court regarding the new restriction? They lost the case. They had to lose the case. It was a very, very poorly put together. And they lost the case, and I don't know how much it cost them, but they must have a lot of money to try to put it together. They did it on the wrong basis. The basis, anyway, that's not my area of expertise. My area of expertise is horse racing. They lost the case, Vivek, so that's very sad for them. And very happy for all the little guys who are going to be making some more money out of it. Point 8, and this is probably the most important point of the whole lot, is racing should have an ombudsman. You've got to have someone who is there to be able to answer queries, look into problems, and give a level playing field answer. Not someone who is tied to this operation, that operation, the other operation. You've got to have someone who knows about horse racing as an ombudsman. And I think an ombudsman would go a long way to starting the ball rolling with bringing together all the parties in the industry that need to be brought together and need to chat to each other. It's to me one of the things that really need to be thought about. I would be very happy to be a racing ombudsman because I think I know enough about it. But they normally get legal people. But then you can always employ a legal representative to be the mouthpiece for an ombudsman. But I think an ombudsman would be a great addition to the industry, which means that people who have queries, and there are many of you out there who have queries about all types of things. I know I get queries daily, which I'm answering and looking after people and trying to help. A lot of them make no sense, and they have no grounding, and people's aggravation is not really in order. But in that position, you just say it as it is. You say, listen, there's nothing here, and there's nothing we can go through and sort out. But if there is something that you can sort out, it puts people's minds at ease to be able to know that someone is attending to them and their problems. And I think that's vitally important. I think that this industry needs a level-headed person to be able to look at any query that any racing enthusiast, future enthusiast, whatever, might want to be able to know the answer to. And you've got to be able to have the answers. And there are not many people out there who I think have the answers. Let's hope you've enjoyed this. It's been quite difficult to put it all together in a sort of 30 minutes, a little package where people can listen, people can take this information and say, that's good, that's not so good, that will help, that won't help, this needs to be done, that doesn't need to be done. I'm happy to throw it out there. That's what I like doing. I want to throw it out there. I want feedback. If any of you want to feedback, I'm prepared to help you. Stephen Peterson, if you phone for any problems, there's no one that phones you back. Well, that's exactly the problem. If you have one person who you know you can email, you can send a message, you can telephone, you can get an answer from on any problem that you might have, it would certainly help this industry. Would be worth its weight in gold to have someone that's able to answer these questions, or certainly go to the right authorities and has the credibility and the wherewithal to be able to go to the authorities and get an answer from them. The problem is most of the authorities don't want to answer these things. But if you have someone that's put in a position where they are actually in charge of finding out the answer, it will help. I hope this helps all of you. It's certainly great to start off 2021. I'm not sure that things are going to improve as much as we hope that they're going to do, but let's have a look and see what happens with our whole new structure in racing. And I'm always hopeful that things will go the right way. If I can be of help, I'm certainly there anytime, all the time to help you. From me, James Goodman, Winning Ways is the show. Please subscribe on YouTube and please share it with your mates and ask them to subscribe. We're getting close to the magical 1,000 subscribers mark, which is a fantastic achievement for a one-man show that just goes through things that I think are important and helpful to racing. I hope you've all enjoyed it, and I wish you all the very best for 2021, and thank you for joining me.